So we last left off talking about they had just completed the Constitution. It was just a rough outline of what the Constitution is. There's more to it. We'll talk about that in another lecture. But they decided that they were going to send this document to the states, and each state would hold a ratifying convention. And they decided that when 9 of 13 of the states ratified it, it would go into effect. Well, as you know, you put any issue out there, you're going to get people for it and against it. And so early on, we got two groups, those for the new Constitution, which were known as the Federalists, and those that were opposed to the new Constitution, who were known as the Anti-Federalists. And if we had modern polling data back then, we'd probably found that most people were probably Anti-Federalists. But the Federalists have a lot of built-in advantages. One is that George Washington likes it, and everybody loves Washington. Two, they tend to have more money, so they can buy newspapers and print more broadsides to advertise their arguments. Three, and they're better debaters. They're more educated, and whenever they get in debates, they win. And they're going to make their arguments in a series of papers known as the Federalist Papers, written by James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay. And those are still important today. They're still used by the Supreme Court when making some decisions. They go back and reread the Federalist Papers to try to understand the intent of the founders. What were they trying to say? Well, this is going to be an easy summary of ratification. You can take entire graduate courses on ratification, read books about it, but we're going to oversimplify here. So for the Anti-Federalists, their major issue is, one, they just fought against a strong centralized government, and now you've brought to us another strong centralized government. We had just fought the revolution against the British government, and now we're going to have a government that looks suspiciously like what the British had. Their second objection was that you weren't supposed to throw away the Articles of Confederation. You were supposed to revise them, and so they sort of disregarded their mandate, what they were supposed to do. And three, they said, you know, you've listed the powers of the government, but nowhere did you list the rights of the people. And Patrick Henry said, he goes, why no Bill of Rights? Were you afraid that you were going to waste too much paper? So how did the Federalists respond to this? Well, one, they said, look, we didn't make government too strong. We actually weakened government because you've got three branches of government, and they're all elected a different way, either by the people, by state legislatures, by the Electoral College, or appointed by the president with the consent of the Senate. They all serve a different term of office, 2 years, 6 years, 4 years for the president, and life for the Supreme Court and federal judges. So Madison said what they had actually done was they created ambition to counteract ambition. The idea was that each branch would always be fighting with each other for power, for dominance, and that would eventually just weaken them all and prevent them from becoming too powerful at any one point in time. Now, they also, when it comes to the idea that they weren't supposed to throw away the Articles, they pled guilty to that. They said, look, the Articles weren't working, we needed something different. And then on the last case, they said, well, why do you need a Bill of Rights? You have state governments that are going to protect you from protect your rights, and you have your own representatives. Who are you fearing? Why do you need a Bill of Rights? You're electing these people. Well, to simplify again, one of the deals that are cut to get this thing ratified was they would add a Bill of Rights. And so the Constitution is ratified in 1788. The Bill of Rights added, just a couple of years later in 1791, written by primarily James Madison, who became one of its biggest proponents. And so the Constitution goes into effect. And that's ratification. So what we'll talk about next time is we'll talk about the Bill of Rights and each one of those, and then we'll talk about the different clauses and powers of the government. So we'll do that next time.